Hello everyone, I'm doing my presentation on brucellosis and kind of the different organisms that um, cause it and what does that mean. Treating it, what does it do in the human body? First thing, the organisms of brucellosis, because there isn't just one. When I chose this one, I thought that there was going to be just one, but I found out it's the genus Brucella. Has a couple of them that do cause the same things in humans, but where they come from is different. So yes, they the Brucella species, genus Brucella, there are four main types of Brucella that come in. There's Brucella I'm gonna screw these up, melitensis, which comes from sheep, which is one of the more predominant ones. There's Brucella suis, which comes from pigs, Brucella abortus, which comes from cattle, and Brucella canis, which comes from dogs. And this is a gram-negative streak of Brucella melitensis from sheep. And I found that kind of fun, but also understanding that Brucella is it has two hosts, so most of the time it goes from animal and then on to humans. It doesn't go straight to humans. It stops in between all those, and these are the predominant ones that are found in each of those. So discovery, there were three main guys discovering this because it is also can be referred to as Malta's fever. And so there was something called, well, first it was described in 1751 by George Cleghorn in one of his writings of diseases of the time. And then it was actually identified as this disease, as this organism, Brucella, by David Bruce, i.e. Brucella, in 1886 at the Malta Fever Commission, in which he was the head of it all. He was the chief executive of it all. And the guy in the middle here is Bruce. I just thought that was a very fun image to have, where you have the commission here, but he's the main guy. And then one person, I wasn't going to add him in, but I thought it was very important to add, is Themistocles, I don't know how to say his name, Mr. Zamet, in 1905, is he was the one that characterized the transmission of Brucella melitensis in goat's milk and kind of helped pioneer looking into what is actually causing it, and kind of in the pasteurization of goat's milk. So it's taxonomy, of course, genus Brucella, family Brucellaceae. It is a part of the class of alpha proteobacteria. I mean, that's a mouthful. Which are pathogens for animals and for plants. But one of the cool things is in order Rhizobiales, there's them, and I believe only one other genus in those groupings that predominantly go for mammalian cells, and those are their vectors rather than, in some of them it's plants, of course, and some of them it's mainly insect vectors in all of these. And of course the image here kind of shows, if y'all see it, it might be a bit blurry. There's a couple of the different types. There's a couple of suis over here. The canis is there, so it kind of offshoots there, showing that there's different subspecies of each of them growing out, becoming a bit more and more complex based on where they're found. Organism structure. So they're about 0.5 to 1.5 micrometers. One of the cool things about, I guess cool in quotes, is they have no flagellum or capsules, so they are non-motile. They kind of get moved around, especially when they make themselves to the bloodstream. and then they, will deposit themselves in their target cells or in their target organs. They are gram-negative, so they do have that extra form of protection, a bit harder to attack with antibiotics. They are part of Coccobacilli, and they are non-forming. And in this image that I really like, I need to make it smaller. You could see that they're little rod-shaped. Coccobacilli, meaning they're kind of a stouter rod shaped, making them great to flow through the bloodstream, but also attach themselves onto the different cells inside the target organs. And yeah, they're just tiny little things, those things covered in them. Yeah. Okay. So some of the symptoms, I thought it'd only be fair if I told you some of the symptoms. And over here, you can see a bit more of the target cells and what that means. So if it goes into like bone marrow, you can see things like joint pain. It does cause overall inflammation, so you can get yourself the fever, headache, and overall pains. It does target the liver as one of its things. So of course you have liver inflammation and even spleen inflammation. It goes into the lymphatic system, so when it gets in there, it spreads really, really quickly. And of course, weight loss has been seen in that. And some studies that I've seen show that the weight loss is caused by depression in it all. You don't want to go up and move. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to do anything because it hurts to move. It hurts to any of that. And then part of it is it kind of isn't allowing the liver to send out enzymes as much to help digest and to take food in, and it kind of just gets rid of food at times. Okay, so it's pathogenesis. So, yeah, there are two primary ways that it is found. In some context, to go into the body. Inhalation is one of them. It's really good at being aerosolized, especially around cattle or the different species in which they are found in. And then, of course, if you have a cut, it goes straight into the bloodstream there, and there's wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. And then, of course, then it attaches to its target organs, again, being the bone marrow, the central nervous system, liver, spleen, lymphatic system, even into the heart. And then I'm going to have a hard time saying this part, but bactericidal myeloperoxidase peroxide halide system inhibition. So it's a part of phagocytosis, and it helps to inhibit it so it doesn't get eaten up, destroyed, and it can live longer. And over here is a bit of the granulomas that it can create, and it can even cause lesions on the skin. In some rare cases, primarily it's been found in Brucellosis from pigs, and not much from any of the other species. So it's epidemiology. First thing, it's endemic to the Mediterranean, Sub-Saharan Africa, and a lot of parts of the Middle East, especially in places in which cattle. One article was talking about, actually, part of it was the World Health Organization was showing that it's in areas in which pork is not used as much, because then they rely a bit more on bigger amounts of other cattle, like oxen, beef, or in a lot of cases lamb, which is huge around the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, where sparing food can be a bit dicier when it comes to limiting resources. It is more likely in men. There was one study that shows it was an even split, but the World Health Organization showed that it actually is at a higher rate of men, and especially men of younger working age, because they're out with cattle. They're the ones doing a bit more of the wrangling and in a lot of cases, the slaughterhouse, where they might have a cut on their hand, they're working with the blood, they're working with all that stuff, so it is a lot easier brought into the body. And again, yes, contact with cattle. If you are a rancher, you have a higher chance, of course, because you're around them all day. It can be found, of course, unpasteurized dairy. There's a huge trend going around about raw milk. So send them this. It can grow, especially in things like goat's milk and unchecked cow's milk. People don't want to bring it up to temperature to kill off the bacteria, and then they end up getting it. It goes straight into their stomach and finds its way into the body. And then, of course, bodily fluids. This doesn't just mean that you can get it from only cattle, though it is primarily there. You can get it from person to person. Someone who's infected, they vomit, they urine, they pee, and you're in contact with that open cut. It can be transferred. It is less likely, but it is still very possible. And of course, it can be in the fluids of cattle. One predominantly is it can these cells can find themselves, these bacteria can find themselves in high quantities around the reproductive organs of these animals, and specifically in pigs. So if you are a pig breeder or have a pig farm in that sense, and you are around them a lot, you can actually even get it from urine or some more of the reproductive fluids. Oh, and here, yeah, it just kind of shows kind of the main areas. Abrasions, any place in which it can get into the skin. Ingestion through milk or other dairy products. Inhaled or in the conjunctiva of the eyes. This can be just by kind of getting there through aerosol, or a lot of times in some of these cases in slaughterhouses, you might not be as careful. You might have not cleaned your hands as well as they should have been, and you scratch your eye and boom, it's there. So what is the treatment? This is the funny thing, is the treatment I thought was going to be this big thing about, like, here's antibiotics, here's this remedy, there's these other things, and it pretty much just came to, well, you need antibiotics. It's a gram-negative bacteria. It's resistant to a lot of things. You need to take bacteria, and the main one is tetracycline. I also saw one that says deoxycycline, augmentin, really a lot of them. This is the main one, and it showed you're doing like 60-day trials. This isn't like a 10-day, get it out. This is you're taking these 2 times a day for 60 days because it is a big problem. Again, these treatments of antibiotics or other things can happen in humans and cattle. Also get vaccinated before for it, especially with your cattle. There's a lot of times, at least here in America, if you find an animal that has that, a lot of times they quarantine it, they try and treat it, but a lot of times it's a waste of money and they just put it down. Early detection is the best treatment. Again, it comes down to you only can do antibiotics with it, so get in. If you think you have it, or you have that scare, you cut your hand, or you starting to feel those symptoms, go in as soon as you can, get those antibiotics on place. It's the best treatment. And then treating the symptoms, and the primary one is you're going to have a lot of inflammation, so an NSAID, like an aspirin, can do a lot for the joint pains, allowing you to go on a bit easier with life, rather than being stuck in pain. Okay, and then prevention. Don't drink unpasteurized dairy, or pasteurize your own dairy if you collect your own. I live near a dairy myself, and sometimes they hand out milk at a lower price if they have too much, and the big thing is make sure you pasteurize it again. Even though they already pasteurized it, do it again just to make sure. Cook meat thoroughly, especially things like pork and lamb. Beef, it's up there. This isn't as big of a problem here today, but if you're slaughtering your own cow, cook it thoroughly. Make sure it doesn't have that. This is how it can be transmitted very easily. Where production's around cattle. If you're at the slaughterhouse or you're dealing with animals that you might think might be infected with it, wear gloves, wear things to cover yourself up. Vaccinate domesticated animals. Again, your dog can get it. I'm a huge dog person. My dog is just over there. They can get it. Get them vaccinated for all that stuff and treat them when it comes up. And domesticated animals can be, even your own, of course, cattle. And then I always, as a EMT, I used to have the thing of assume everyone is infected. Wear gloves, wear this like they have the worst disease. In EMT case, it was, the big thing was AIDS. Is assume that everybody has the worst disease ever and cover yourself up, but don't treat anything like it's clean. And here are my references, a lot of them. Thank you.